Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Plays. Today I'm taking a preview look at a prototype copy of the upcoming flip and write game Flip Voyage from designer Stephen Aramini and publisher Right Stuff Games. This is a follow-up to their previous game Flip Town, this time set in the world of Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. You find yourself as a crew member on the Nautilus with Captain Nemo, being tasked by Captain Nemo to sort of set sail in your own sort of version of the Nautilus, trying to make a name for yourself, gaining notoriety along the way, and also sort of completing different challenges given to you by Captain Nemo. Disclaimer, as a preview version or a preview of a prototype version of a game, I was given advanced access to this game by the publisher. And I do want to point out here also that I've done a lot of work with Stephen Aramini on his other games. I've play tested both of these games, and for a short period of time in the past, it's not happening anymore. He was making donations to my channel because he does say that he enjoys my channel as well. I just want to put that out there in case there's any bias in my video. But as always, I will do my best to give you my own honest opinion on the game. With all of that said, let's head down to the table to see how this one plays solo, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. To set up a solo game of Flip Voyage, begin by placing the board out onto the table. And I will apologize here, I am filming in a different place than I normally do, so if the audio is weirder than normal, or if the lighting gets funny, I do apologize, but I am giving my best. And I wanted to make sure to show off these videos while I could, and summer is a little bit of a tricky time for me, but let's continue. Next, I'm going to select a character for the game. I'm going to take the character cards, give those a shuffle, and I'm going to take two of those, and from those two I will select which ones I want to use for the game. And I'm going to explain a little bit about these two characters so that you can see what I'm choosing, but it won't make complete sense obviously until I've told you how the game plays. But here I've got the deep sea diver, and this here shows me the starting resources that I will start with. And then over here is going to show me sort of the starting location on the map where I will start with as that character. In addition to that, on the back there will be a special ability for this character. So here the deep sea diver will start with 2 knowledge, 2 salvage, 4 crew, and 1 treasure starting in this location. And they also come with the diving suit, which says when I circle one of the bonuses on the map, I would be able to take that twice. And that's a once per use ability. I did just play with this character in a sort of prep game before recording, so I'm not going to use that one. We'll just take whatever the other one is, and that is here the consail. Gets me 2 knowledge, 1 salvage, 2 crew, 1 treasure. I will start up here in the top right, and I'll show you all that in just a second. But I will also be starting with an anchor, which is on a turn I can choose a movement card, but instead of moving or tracking leagues, I will instead gain 3 crew, and then if I'm on a star or bonus action space, I get to use it again. That's going to be really cool. I'll explain that to you later, but let's go ahead and finish the setup here. And I will bring a board closer to the screen to show off all of the stuff as I need to when I get into it, but for right now, all I'm doing is marking off my starting resources. So with the consail, I do get 2 knowledge, right here. I get 1 salvage, I get 2 crew, and I get 2 treasures. And I'm just going to explain briefly here as I'm filling in these resources that knowledge is going to be used like gold in Flip Town, if you remember that, or if you've seen that game before or even played that game before, meaning that for 1 knowledge I can increase or decrease the value of a card that I'm playing later. And for 2 knowledge, I can change the suit of a card that I'm playing later. But you'll see how that works as I get into gameplay later. The salvage and crew will mostly be used to upgrade my ship at the end of each of my rounds, and or crew can be used to remove damage that's been done to my ship as well. And the treasure is basically just going to be a wild, meaning I can use that as a knowledge, as a salvage, as a crew. And then at the end of the game, for every 3 of these 3 regular resources, I will score a point. And for every 1 treasure, I will score a point as well. So they will also count as points at the end if I haven't used them in gameplay. Then also, it shows that for that character, I will be starting in this quadrant. And we always start on the star. The stars are point locations. So I do start by scoring 1 point, but you can see that that already starts marked off here on the player board. Then I'm going to flip that over to see my starting ability, and again, that will flip back later when I do choose to activate that on my turn. While also setting up my player area, I need to have my 4 sort of player tokens or player markers. I'll show those to you up close. First, this is going to mark the card I'm choosing to move or choosing to use for my navigation or movement action each turn. These 2 are going to mark the suit card and the value card that I use to take my main action. And then this token is going to be either to signify that I'm using 2 crew to heal damage on my ship, or that I'm choosing to use crew and salvage to upgrade my ship in some way. But I'll explain how all of that works as I get into actions. I just want to put those out here on the table so I have them to use later on. Then finally, the last step I need to do to set up for what is going to be this version, the Beat Your Own Score solo mode, which I will be playing first. I'm actually going to come back and play a second playthrough using the AI Farragut's Pursuit. But for right now, in this case, well, actually for both modes, but this is the last step for this mode, I'm going to take this deck of Nemo's Challenge cards, giving those a shuffle, and we will use 3 of those at random for this game. I'm going to place those out over here. We've got Nemo's Challenge, 3 of those coming out like that. And you'll see, let me explain those now, I might as well. You don't know what they mean as far as what I need to accomplish, but I'll explain that as I do those things. But here, they're each going to score me 5 points if I can accomplish whatever the challenge is. Except in a multiplayer game, whoever scores it first gets 5 points and everybody else gets 2 points. In the solo game, you'll see jokers will be shuffled into the main deck of cards, and anytime a joker comes out, the sort of leftmost, if you had them left to right, or in this case, topmost card that is still on a 5 will flip to a 2. So there's a bit of a timer randomly that's going to be sort of randomly shuffled into my deck of cards that will sort of decrease the available point scoring for these, so I do kind of need to rush to get them done. This one here says that I need to cross out either of these bubbles at the bottom row of the Diamond Adventure section that does damage me. Nemo's Challenge, this one here says I need to build 5 upgrades. That's going to be tricky. I don't think I've played with that one before. And this one here says I need to gain at least 1 star in each of the 4 main action areas. And again, I'll come back to those to remind you of what they are as we get into gameplay once I've explained how the game works. And then again, we do have our deck of cards with the 2 jokers placed in there somewhere, giving those a good shuffle. And then I'll set those just up here in the top left corner of the game board. And with that, we are all set up for gameplay. So let me pull out one more player board so I can explain to you how all of the things in the game work up close on camera, and then we'll get into gameplay. So Flip Voyage, just like its brother Flip Town, will play out over a series of rounds. And in each round, I will be drawing 3 cards. Like this. And then from those 3 cards, I need to use these, sorry, not this one, these 3 tokens to mark one of these cards as movement, one of these cards being used as an suit, which determines which of the 4 main actions I will take. And then the 3rd card will be used as the value to determine which space in that action I am marking. This addition of movement is the main sort of big difference between this and Flip Town, but of course all of the actions will be slightly different because this is a different game as well as different theming. And along the way, I should be sort of trying to do these things, but also to try and score points and minimize damage as much as possible in my choices. And then once I've moved here, activated an action, I then get to use this token again to either decide to use 2 crew to fix a damage on my ship, or to upgrade one of the to activate one of the upgrades on my ship. So let me focus first on the movement piece of the game. Coming up closer to the board, looking here, this is the movement section. And when I choose a card, I am going to use the value of that card, exactly that value, to move a number of spaces orthogonally on this map. And the way that that's going to work is I need to start from where I'm starting. So in this case, on my board, I am starting here. And I need to move a number of spaces. Anytime I move, I have to move orthogonally, not diagonally. Anytime I cross a border between areas, I'm going to choose either of these 2 bonuses that has not yet been activated and cross it off. So for example, if I was moving 5 spaces, I could move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. And at the end of my movement, I would circle where I'm ending. Again, because I crossed this line, I would then choose to activate one of those things, adding that resource to my available resources. And then on my board, you will see around the outside of the board, there are 2 tracks. Well, it's a single continuous track, but from this side, it says notoriety. That's my points, that's the stars. So in this case, because I'm getting this 2, I will score 2 stars. But before I do that, after I've completed my movement, I need to track down here from this direction marked leagues, how many spaces I just moved on that turn. So for example here, because I just moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, crossing off that space to show that I've now moved 5 spaces. After I've done that, I'm going to activate any bonuses I've triggered along the way, including the resources that I just showed you. If I cross any of these explosions, I will add 1 damage to my ship. If I pass over any stars, I will add those stars. So in this case, I would circle 2 stars ahead to show that I've just earned those 2 stars. And if I finish my movement on any of these locations, that's what the anchor means, I need to stop there, I will activate the bonus action on that space. And a bonus action simply means I will be able to take any valued version of whichever action that suit is showing. So in this case, if I had landed on that diamond, I would trigger an adventure action of any value of my choice. And again, I can cross over damage, cross over the stars in order to trigger those, cross over the borders in order to trigger those. But in order to activate these suited bonuses, I need to land on that space as shown by that anchor. So that's my move action. I will then choose to use the 2 remaining cards, 1 for the suit and 1 for the value, to activate one of the 4 actions on my board matching the suit that I've chosen, of a value matching the value that I've chosen. So let me go ahead and show you the 4 possible actions and explain sort of how they work and how scoring is going to work as well for each of those 4 actions. So first we have the science action here. And the science action is the heart suit. And when I pick this, I need to fill in from the bottom of any flask a value matching the card I've chosen. So the color in this one, I need a 9, here a 5, here a 2, and here would take any value. And when I do that, I will do whatever it shows there, gaining a knowledge or a star notoriety point in this case. And anytime I've filled in both spaces around a bonus action, I will then activate that bonus. In addition, anytime I completely fill in one of these flasks, I will score the notoriety points as listed above that flask. So that's the science action. Next, we have the warfare action. The warfare action will take a spade suit, and then the value will dictate which of these boxes I cross off. And when I cross off a box, I will do what it shows above, taking a damage or a salvage in this case. Again, if I've filled in both sides of a bonus action, I trigger that bonus action. And if I complete an entire ship's worth of crates, I will also score the point value or the notoriety value associated with that ship. Next, adventure is the diamond. This one works sort of like the mine in the original Flip Town, only you're starting from the top, working your way down. You can only fill in a block if it is below 2 blocks that have already been filled in. And when I'm filling in here, I'm not crossing off the space. Instead, I'm writing in a value. And the second rule, or the sort of additional rule, is that in addition to only being able to fill in below 2 previously filled in spaces, the value of the box below must be lower in value than either of the 2 boxes that have been filled in above it. So you're sort of starting with high valued numbers, or trying to start with high valued numbers, working your way down as you go deeper into the water. And again, if you fill in a full row, you will score the points associated with that row. And if you fill in boxes on either side of a bonus, you will trigger that bonus. Finally, liberation is the club action, and you're going to cross off the space associated with the value that you're crossing off, either gaining crew or damage. If you fill in a column, you will trigger the bonus action for that column. And if you fill in a row, you will cross off the leftmost star down here, scoring that many points. So the more rows you fill in or complete, the more points you will be scoring in this liberation action. And again, remembering that knowledge can always be used to increase or decrease the value of your value card by 1. And you can use that as many times as you have knowledge, changing that value as much as you want, although you cannot wrap from king to ace or ace to king. And you can always use 2 knowledge to change the suit of a card, basically choosing then any action on the board. And treasures as well can be used as knowledge in the case that I don't have any knowledge available to me. Then finally, after having chosen or used all of the actions available to me, my final option for that round is again to take this chip and choose to either spend 2 crew to cross off 1 damage that's been circled or that's been caused or done to our ship, or to pay for and then activate an upgrade. And you'll see there's 1 upgrade on the board for each value of card. And the way that it's going to work is, let me do these slowly one by one. You're going to pay the costs shown at the top of that upgrade in salvage and crew in order to activate the upgrade. But you can only activate an upgrade that matches the value of one of the 3 cards that you've used that round. Of course, you can always use knowledge to change that value again for this particular step. And then once you've activated that upgrade, you're going to cross off the card, gaining that 1 point as shown in that card. And then you gain access to whatever that upgrade does. So in this case, the skiff will allow you to use treasure as any 2 resources instead of 1. The dredge will allow you to use crew as salvage. The library will allow you to use salvage as knowledge. The medical bay will allow me to use knowledge as crew. The observation deck will allow me to change the suit of a card for 1 knowledge rather than 2 knowledge. This one here says whenever I land on an empty space in this map, I will gain 1 treasure. That's the chart room. The ramming prow says that anytime I gain salvage in a warfare action, means cross off a box that gives me salvage, I will gain an additional 1 salvage. The super propeller says in the adventure row, anytime I cross off a bubble that causes damage, I will also get a treasure. The laboratory says that I can place or cross off any location on these flasks. I do not need to do them in ascending order any longer. I can simply select any location I'd like to cross out, so long as, of course, I have the value that matches that location. The armory says whenever I take a club action, I can increase or decrease the value of the card I'm playing by 1 for free. Reinforced hull says I can repair damage with 1 crew instead of 2 crew. The workshop says my cost per upgrade is 1 less salvage than printed here. The serrated rakers says that on the map, anytime I cross through damage, in addition to taking the damage, I will also get 1 salvage and 1 crew. And yes, that is the last one of those. So then finally, at the end of the game, we are going to score points. You'll see here least efficient, most efficient, all others. That doesn't matter when you're playing against the solo mode or the solo AI. That only comes into effect in multiplayer. And I'll explain what that means anyway in just a second when we talk about the end game. But I just want to show you while we're here, I'm going to score points per stars that I've collected or notoriety that I've collected, 1 point per treasure I've collected, 1 point for any 3 other resources, negative points for each damage that I've collected or received along the way, and that will get my total score for the end game. And the way that the game is going to end is, as I'm gaining stars or notoriety, I'm filling in this direction by circling locations. And as I'm traveling on the map, I'm crossing off in this direction, keeping track of how many spaces I've traveled. And as soon as your leagues cross over with your star points, the game will end at the end of that round. And in the case of the solo beat your own score mode, I'm simply going to look at my score, then also look at the number of treasures that I still have and the amount of damage that I still have. And it will actually put together a sort of sea shanty that describes my journey, which is pretty fun to see, but you'll see how that works when we get to the end of this game. So let's go ahead and get into gameplay. All right, so starting where I am, I have an ace, a 5, or a 5. And already I think I'm going to be a little crazy, but let's see what happens first. I have Nemo's challenge says I need a diamond. I need to cross off one of these 2 bubbles at the bottom. It means I do need to work on getting lots of stuff in my diamonds. I need to build 5 upgrades, so I should be working on getting lots of salvage, and crew means warfare and liberation. And I need at least 1 star in each of these, so I need to get at least 2 hearts so I can get 2 stars from that. And I know that these are going to disappear from the top to the bottom if I don't. So I should sort of prioritize the top, but that means if I get this, then that's going to flip over. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, but I should be focused on these. Remembering I also have the ability once per game to take no movement and instead gain 3 crew and reactivate a bonus that I happen to be on. So what I think I'm going to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to be crazy because I'm going to use a knowledge. And that means I'm going to take this 5 of diamonds as my movement. And you'll see why diamonds in a minute, mostly because I don't want to activate an adventure with an ace because I need to start high and ace is the lowest card in the game. So that would be a really bad choice to start my top row of adventure. But by doing that 5 and crossing off 1 knowledge, I'm making that a 6. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that, circling this as my final destination. So we do need to cross off 1, 2, 3, actually hold on, I don't need to cross them all off, you're allowed to skip ahead. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that. And then I did pass that 2 points in the corner, so I will take 2 stars like that. And we cross this border so I can choose either a crew or a knowledge. I did just use a knowledge, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to get it back again, but I need to do lots of upgrading, so I do want to take that crew. Like that. Taking my crew. Yes, and because I stopped there, I get to activate a diamond adventure action for free. So I'm going to come over here to this location, putting in a K for king, which means I do pop that bubble and get a treasure. Now I get to take my real action. A 5 value here in the top row is not going to be a good idea. I only have 1 knowledge, so I can't change suits. So I'm going to call it a spade suit ace value, which means over here I'm going to cross off that ace, which does get me 1 salvage, which is great. I have no damage, so there's no reason to try and heal damage. So instead I am going to upgrade. So I can upgrade an ace, a 5, or a 5. And since I have no need for treasures in my goals, and yes, of course a treasure is going to score me points, but I do need to do lots of upgrading, and I do need to get stuff going. So I am going to use this ace over here, which gets me the skiff, which says that a treasure now counts as any 2 resources. I can't do that. Never mind, hold on. I only have 2 salvage, I need 3 salvage for that. Looking at the 5 as an observation deck, change the suit of a card for 1 knowledge. I like that a lot. All right, let's do that instead. All right, change the suit for 1 knowledge instead of 2, requires 2 salvage and 1 crew like that. And I do get 1 star for upgrading. So that is the end of the first round. These cards get discarded. And we draw 3 more. 1, 2, and 3 like that. All right. Well, I don't want to move 6 or 10 or king because that's going to fill in my leagues real fast. So, looking ahead, heart king doesn't work except to give me this any star because king I can't get anywhere near yet. But a spade 10 will get me that boat, which I like. All right, so we are going to move with the 6. And I think I might be a little silly, but let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. This might hurt me later, but I'm going to be extra silly, and I realized I should have crossed off this location when we left last time. I'm going to go straight through the damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because, well, first off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 crosses that. But I see that. I'm getting 1 damage, but I'm also getting 1 point, which balances each other out. And if I can get rid of the damage later by using some crew, then that will count as a point and not a negative point. So I'm okay with that for right now. Then I get a spade bonus, but also, oops, that should be crossed off. I get this salvage, which is nice to have, and a spade bonus. Well, I'm about to take a spade bonus up here, so I don't want to do that. But I will take, and it may seem silly to take damage, but it's worth it right now. Take another damage here, because it means I unlock a club bonus. So coming over here, I want to focus on getting lots of diamond stuff done for this. So I'm going to mark this 5 right there, which gets me a crew. Then I take my real action, which is going to be a spade 10. So I can cross off this crate here, getting 1 more salvage, which also scores me 2 points for that boat. 1, 2, like that. Now, I could heal, or I can upgrade 6, 10, or king, or changing with that knowledge if I want to. 6 is the chart room that gets me treasures for empty spaces. 7, no, I don't really want 7, but 7 is the ramming that gets me extra salvage from the warfare zone. Could be good to have, actually, but I don't really want to use my knowledge yet. 10 lets me adjust liberation by plus or minus 1. King is the one that anytime I take a damage here, I get a salvage and a crew. Huh. I think I might actually do that. Yeah, let's do that. So cross off 1 salvage and 1 crew to take this serrated rakers, which means I do get 1 point for doing that. And it means anytime now if I cross damage on here, I get stuff for it, which is worth it, I think. All right, end of the round. Discarding my cards. Drawing up 3 more. Ace of spades, 3 of clubs, and 5 of clubs. I don't love it. I don't love it, but I could end up scoring off of that if I use the clubs. We're getting a diamond, which could be nice as well. In any case, ace 3 or 5. I don't really want to move from there because there's not much I can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets me there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I could get to this heart with a 4. But no, I think I'm going to make use of this. And just basically waste whatever thing I'm doing. And I don't care about the spades right now. So I'm going to mark that. Which means I am using a club. I can auto mark the 3 for a damage and no good. I can change the 3 or the 5 to a 4 with my knowledge to get a crew. Before that I need to do this, but we'll do that in just a second. Or I can change the 5 to a 6 to get a diamond action. Might also be good. But let me finish this first. I gain 3 crew. 1, 2, 3. And then I am on a bonus action, so I get to take a spade for free, and I might as well keep working on this ship. I'm going to say a king is probably hard to get, so I'll do that to take a salvage. Then that flips over. And I am going to mark club 5. Remembering I need points in every location as quickly as possible. Although that's going to be not so quickly with the diamond, but that's okay. I'm going to use a knowledge to change that to a 4, taking this, getting a crew, and then scoring 3 points for having finished my first row. So over here, 1, 2, 3, like that. And my leagues haven't increased at all this round because of that ability, so that's great. Then, ace 3 or 5, I only have 1 salvage left. And all of the stuff around, well, I don't have any knowledge unless I want to use treasure, which I don't. Ace takes 3 salvage, 3 takes 2 salvage, and 5 I already have. So I'm going to heal this turn, crossing off 2 crew to cross off 1 damage. That's the end of that turn. Like that. 3 cards come out. Jack of diamonds, a 9 of hearts, and a 9 of diamonds. All right, so we're looking at diamonds and hearts. We are moving a lot this round, but that's okay because I didn't move last round. All right, so we do want to take one of the 9s as movement. The question is, do I want a science, which could start this 9 down here, or a diamond, which could put a jack up high? Yeah, let's do the diamond. So we're going to take this 9 of hearts. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like that, which means we move 9 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to 80. But we cross 2 borders. So I'm going to get a crew. And let's take a knowledge since we don't have any. A knowledge and a crew. And I crossed the 1 star, so I do get a point for that. And then we get a club bonus action. And I may be crazy for taking on all this damage, but whoops, I am going to take this damage to get a diamond action. And again, I know I'm crazy, but take this king to get another damage, because that also gets me a heart action. And I'm looking to get diamond stuff, but I also need to fill in this stuff. Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to take this bottom any. That's a waste because any is any, and that's sad, but that's okay. Which means I get 1 star, like that. And then for my real action, I really hate hurting myself this much, but it's worth it. Diamond jack going down because I do need to get to the bottom quick. Putting a jack there, which does get me another damage. But again, we're almost to the bottom now. I just need to fill in 3 more of those to get to the bottom. Then 9 and jack. Jack is reinforced hull. That's healing faster. We need that badly. Okay, so 2 salvage and 3 crew gets me a reinforced hull and 1 point. Like that. So now we have 3 upgrades of our 5. That's the turn. 3 more cards. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's beautiful, but I don't know if I want to move 10 spaces. But there's my heart ace that gets me that. All right, well, here we go. We're being crazy. It's worth it. 10. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I realize I've been forgetting to cross off. Wait a minute. That's the wrong way. Where am I going? I'm going from the wrong place. This should be crossed off. I'm starting here. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's go and check again. Yeah, what we're going to do is this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Which means I do have to use 1 knowledge, but we are only traveling 9 spaces, which is good. That crosses off. We cross 2 borders. So I will take that crew. And, nope. We crossed down, so I want to take this crew. Because then I cross over there, and just in case we come back again, I don't want to cross off both of those. But I will take a salvage. Because I need more upgrades to finish that challenge. Then I get 1, 2, 3 points. And we get a free spade action. Which I'm going to do this 9. Ouch, it's another damage. But it gets me another king up here at the top, which gets me another treasure. Which also unlocks a... Oh no, that was the diamond. Now it's my turn to take a real action, and that's going to be a heart ace. Which means I get to cross off the top of this flask, getting 1 more knowledge. Also scoring 2 points from that flask, like that. Plus we get another spade bonus, which gets me this 6 right here, getting another salvage, and 12 points, which is huge. 1, 2 is 21, 31, like that. Good. And then upgrade or healing. Got 2 salvage, ace, 10, 7. Ace needs 3 salvage, although I could use a treasure chest to do it. But that makes my treasure chest stronger. This gives me flexibility for clubs, which is not super important. 7 lets me salvage more from warfare, but I've kind of done that already. But yeah, let's use a treasure chest as a salvage. That's 1, 2, 3, plus 1 crew. Gets me this skiff for 1 point. Plus now treasures count as any 2 resources moving forward. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4 towards my 5. Yes. Okay, end of the turn. And I've got points now in 3 of the 4 locations. So I need 2 more here, or 3 more at the bottom. I don't think I'm going to fill in that middle section, but let's see what happens. 9, queen, 10, still no joker, that's great. But those are all high numbers, which is rushing the end of the game, which I don't like. But a 10 diamond, a diamond queen is great for there. So we are going to try and use that 9. All right, so again, being silly, but we can loop back as long as we don't circle in on ourselves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like that, I think. I don't love hearts, but going up that way does get me 1 more crew. Hold on. 9 first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 goes there. I get that crew. And I don't remember now if I checked, if I circled it off. I don't think I did. And if I did, I'm sorry, I'll fix that in editing. But I also get a point from there. And I get a heart bonus action, which could get me a resource, sorry, a knowledge, or a star. And I want the star because it's a point, but also because if I can get a heart 6 later, that gets me more diamonds, which I need to hurry up on. So that means that was my movement. Means we are doing a diamond queen so that I can put a queen there, which gets me another treasure chest and gets me this spade action, which aiming for diamonds again, coming over here, this 4 gets me a salvage added there like that. Good. Then I've got a 9 queen or 10. 9 would be nice to have, potentially, not necessarily. Let's see. Queen says cheaper upgrades. But after I get this 5th upgrade, I don't think I need another one. 10 lets me play with clubs a little bit. 8, if I go back, gets me treasure from damage. I think that's worth it, because that's canceling damage, basically. Let me see, though. This is 4, this is 4. This only costs me 2 resources. Yeah, let's do the armory just because. The super peller is nice, but it costs 2 additional resources I don't want to use. All right, so a salvage and a crew gets me this armory and 1 point. I should cross off that I left there. Then that's the end of the round. I'm still not at the bottom, but I will be soon. And I do now have 5 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That flips over. I get 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm at 40. I have not scored in diamonds yet. All right, so that's the turn. 3 more cards. 7, 8, 8. All right, we're going to take this 7. Going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Going there. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is there. I cross 2 borders. First off, we left there. I get a salvage from there. Unfortunately, I've already taken both bonuses from that spot, so I don't get anything there, but I do get a point there. 41. And we get a heart bonus, which I am going to use on this 6 to get one more knowledge, which also gets me a diamond action, which means I will put a 10 down here. It hurts that I get an explosion, but it will mean at the end of the round I get this. And then I am going to use a heart 8, but I'm going to use one knowledge to change that to a 7 to put that there and take 1 point like that. I don't need to upgrade anymore. I want to start working on getting rid of damage. So we're going to lose 1 crew because I have the reinforced hull to cross out 1 damage. And that's the end of that round. Oh, but before that, I did complete this challenge. So I do score 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here at 47, which means the next turn may be the end of the game. Oh, unless I... Okay, this is a nice little turn. Okay. Yeah. We're going to move with the 2, but I'm going to use a knowledge to make it a 3 so I can go 1, 2, 3 and circle that. Which means first things first, 1, 2, 3 goes there. I cross this border getting a crew member. And then I get this bonus, but let me cross off where I just left. I get a spade for free. All right, well, I'm going to take that 7, which does get me a damage, but it does get me a diamond action as well, which means I will put a king up here to get another treasure. And then I'm going to use a diamond and a jack to fill in that top row. Jack, which does get me another damage, which is not fun, but it gets me this club, and it gets me 5 points. Which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be the last round because I've now intersected with my leagues, but that's okay. I get 1 more club action, which fills in there. Getting another crew, which also finishes another row here, which checks off the next here, which is 3 more points. 1, 2, 3, going here at 55. And I do now have points from here and here and here and here. Means I score 5 for that. We never saw any jokers come out this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like that. And for my final action of the game, I will be using 1 crew to cross off 1 more damage. We are scoring lots of negative points, but I hope that we get lots of points from everything else. So let's go ahead. We've got 60 stars. Plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 treasure chests. Then scoring 3 of any other resource I don't really have. 1, 2 crew, 1 salvage, no knowledge. That's just 1 point for those 3. And then minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 6. Minus 6, 60 plus 6 minus 6 is a total of 60. Not a great score, but not a horrible score. Again, this is beat your own score mode, means I'm going to take a look in the back of the rules. This is just a printed rules for this prototype. This is all prototype material, as this is a preview for a Kickstarter campaign. But with that, we are going to check our score in the list to create our shanty. And looking at that list, you'll see that we're going to check our score, the amount of treasure we still have left, and the amount of damage we still have left, which means 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the 3 things we're going to look at. So going into the book, it says, "Oh, down below the waves so deep, where secrets of the ocean sleep. Together strong, through storm and strife, in this great sea we find a life. For through the trials our crew still sings alive at sea, the joy it brings." Not a bad one, and anyway, it's fun to hear the shanty. I hope you didn't mind my silly accent. that is the solo beat your own score mode. I'm gonna go ahead and clear up everything, and I will do one more playthrough with the sort of solo AI mode. I'm sliding this board down just a little so I have more space above in just a minute. But let me go ahead and reset, and I will show you what comes next. All right, so everything has been cleaned up. The deck has been reshuffled. Starting first, taking characters. I'm only using characters and the Nemo's challenges that we didn't use in the first playthrough. So drawing 2 new characters. I've got the first mate, which gets me 1 knowledge, 2 salvage, 2 crew, 2 treasure. Starts at the bottom center. It has a compass that says when moving, I get to double each exploration reward that I gain along the way. And exploration rewards are the ones that I get for crossing borders. And then we've got Ned Land, 1 knowledge, 3 salvage, 4 crew, 1 treasure, starts there, and has a harpoon. It says I get to ignore 1 gained damage. I still cross it off, but I don't circle it in my inventory, and I get to cross off 2 other damage that I've already gotten. So it prevents 1 damage and heals 2. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna take that one. So starting first by getting 1 knowledge, 3 salvage, 4 crew, 1 treasure, and starting here at this point like that. Then shuffling up our challenge cards again, drawing 3 of those. We've got filling 1 level in each of the 4 beakers in science, scoring at least 3 rows in this liberation area, and having at least 6 treasures in my treasure inventory. That sounds like it's gonna be challenging. But then for this playthrough, I'm also going to be using the Farragut Pursuit AI, which is this deck of cards here. I'm gonna start by giving those cards a shuffle. And because the game is challenging enough, and it does recommend that for my first play, this isn't my first play, but it's one of my first few plays, to play at the easiest difficulty level, 0. You get to choose a difficulty level, and the difficulty level is just going to dictate how many cards start turned over. So I'm going to start at the easy difficulty level, which is a 0. So I'm not going to start with anything turned over to start. The highest difficulty level is a 4, which would start with 4 cards. I'm not going to do that. So we'll start with 0, but right away at the start of every turn, before taking my turn, I'm going to draw some cards for them. So first I'm going to turn over the 3 cards for our turn, like normal. And then I'm going to turn over 2 cards from Farragut's deck, like that and like that. And the way that Farragut is going to work is, at the end of my turn, or sort of throughout my turn, anytime I do something that matches a condition on a face-up Farragut's Pursuit card, that card will sort of be slid up to remind me that at the end of that turn, Farragut will score 5 points for each of those cards that have been activated by the things I've done that turn, and then those cards will get discarded. For any card that remains here that was not activated during that turn, I will score, as you can see up here in the top left corner, 1 point. So the more cards I can sort of avoid triggering and leave there, the more points I'm scoring. Whereas the cards that I trigger will go away, meaning I can freely do that thing in a later turn, but they're going to score 5 points each. Then also, just like we showed before, if the jokers come out, they will flip over the Nemo's challenge. Instead of that just making the points less for me, Farragut will instead be scoring that 5 points when the joker turns that card over. So Farragut has the opportunity to score up to 10 points from those challenge cards. And also one thing that I did forget to do at the beginning, sorry, this first card drawn should not have gone into my row because I needed to have drawn a card for Farragut. So this card is going to get discarded, and Farragut is now going to be scoring on the heart suit. So I'm going to circle the heart suit over here. And what that means is at the end of the game, for any space in this area that I have not filled in, Farragut will also be scoring 1 point. So they're scoring points based on any conditions I trigger here. They're scoring based on the Nemo's challenges if a joker should come out of the deck. And then they're also scoring 1 point, in this case, for each heart that I do not complete. So I want to try and fill in as many hearts as possible. I do have my harpoon available to me. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. So right now I want to avoid treasures and I want to avoid gaining knowledge. I've got 3, 4, 4. Starting from this spot, and I need to fill in hearts. So I'm gonna start left and go left up over to get to this heart bonus. Crossing out there, we move 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I should mention the game will still trigger the same way that it did before. When leagues hits the number of notoriety points there, that is when we will go into final scoring. So then I did cross a border. I don't want to get the knowledge because that card will trigger, so I am going to take 1 crew. And then I do get a heart bonus action. I'm not going to use the any because any can be any. And I do see that that is a 3. So, whoops, that's still checked from last time. Where should I go? Clubs are still safe. You know what, let's, but that's a knowledge. I don't want them to score that knowledge. So what I'm gonna do is I'll take that point for the any, hold on. Or, let's take this 5 down here. Take that, I get a point for that. That's done. Now I get to do either diamond 4 or spade 4. Diamond 4 would be a really bad idea starting off, so we will do spade 4, which gets me a salvage. Spade 4. Then there's no damage to heal, so let's take a look at upgrades. Avoiding using a knowledge, which is fine. This is just about collecting knowledge, but I don't want to spend the knowledge if I can avoid it. So avoiding using knowledge. We've got the library, which would let me turn salvage into knowledge, which would be cool because then I can use knowledge and avoid using that. Or the medical bay, which will let me use knowledge as crew. No, because right now I'm avoiding knowledge, and that won't go away until I trigger it. So let's see what we can do to last as long as possible. I will do that 3, using 2 salvage and 1 crew, gaining 1 point, like that. That is my turn. I did not get any treasure. I did not get any knowledge, so I'm getting 2 points. Farragut gets nothing. We reset for the next round. These come off. This clears. Those do not clear because they didn't trigger. So I'm drawing 3 new cards. 1, 2, 3. And then 2 more for Farragut. 1 and 2. So this means if I do a diamond action, this means if I do a spade action. That also includes if I trigger them from the board. So I want to avoid that if possible. Which means I don't really want to do that. Which means I could use that for movement, but it doesn't get me anywhere. But a club ace is not horrible. Let's see then. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gets me there. Yeah, let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goes there. And then we've got 1 point for passing through that star. I've already got this crew, so we're going to take that salvage. And I get a club action for free. Well, it looks like I'm probably doing club ace. So why not do this, taking a damage like that, and then doing club ace. And the sun's being crazy outside right now, so if this looks a little bit overblown on the screen, I apologize. I hope that I can fix it if it does look bad. But in any case, we've got that ace, which gets me a crew and finishes a row. So I've got a crew, I get a row, I get 3 points. 1, 2, 3 to the corner. And we do have 1 of the 3 rows we need for that club. And I did not get a treasure, I did not get a knowledge, I did not do diamonds, I did not do clubs. Means I get 4 more points. They get no points. But before I do that, I should either heal or upgrade. 4 is the medical bay. I don't want it. King says anytime I cross a damage, I get a salvage and a crew. And ace is the one that lets me use a treasure as 2 things. I don't want to use treasures though this time, if I can avoid it. So, I think I'm going to heal. 2 crew, kills a damage like that. All right, then that clears. I already took care of the 4 points from them. None of those are going to clear yet, which means I may have to let them do something soon so that, well, so that we don't run out of space on camera, but also so that I don't have to be so afraid of things anymore. All right, there's a salvage. And there is a map. All right, so this one says that if I finish my turn in any of those 4 locations, that will trigger. Okay, so I don't want to use a queen or a king for movement, so I want to use 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm gonna have to, hold on, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, I'm gonna, yeah, we're gonna have to trigger some stuff, and unfortunate, but it is gonna happen. Okay, means I'm gonna have to trigger a spade. Sorry, I should have crossed that out last time. I'm about to give them a ton of points, I think. I don't wanna, but I gotta get those things. I need all of those things to happen soon. And I'm not getting any hearts, and I only have 1 knowledge. But I will have 2 knowledge. But heart doesn't help. Maybe so? All right, anyway, I'm gonna do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there. I get 2 points for going through that star. I cross that, means I have to get a knowledge. Means that is active. Then I'm also getting a diamond bonus. Means that is active. And I do want to get a treasure because I need treasures for that anyway. So I'm going to do that. Getting a king, getting a treasure means that is active. And that was my movement. Means I don't want to take a spade action. Whoops, this should be erased too. I don't want to take a spade action because I don't want this or this. This one's safe because I'm at the bottom. Means it doesn't matter which way I do it, I want to aim for hearts. So I'm going to do that and that, but I am going to use 2 knowledge to change that to a heart. So we are going to cross off this. Anyone at the bottom, I get a point for that. Then I can heal or upgrade. King is the one that we saw before about moving through damage. Queen gets me discounts on upgrades. And 7 is the one that says when I get a salvage, I get 2 of them. But I want to hold on to some crew. Let's take the queen. Because that says 3 salvage and 1 crew gets me cheaper upgrades. It gets me 1 star. Now, the AI is scoring these 3 cards for 5, 10, 15. And the way that works is we underlined the score of the AI. So the AI right now is here at 15 points. Those go away. These will then score for me. So I get 3 points. Up here like that. And that is the round. I only have 2 treasures. I only have 1 row. And I only have 2 of the 4 flasks for my hearts. So these go away. Like that. New cards coming out. Jack of spades. 3 of diamonds. Ace of hearts. I like that. But I don't want to use the jack to move, because that's going to zoom way ahead on there. But we're okay for a minute. We're okay for a minute. We're okay for a minute. Let's see what the new things coming out here are. No crew and hearts. Well, hearts is unavoidable, I think. Hearts is unavoidable. No, it's not. It is, because I want to do something. You'll see in a minute. I am going to take the 3 as my movement. Going 1, 2, 3, and just getting a point. Advancing 3 to 21. No. That's not a great idea, because then I got a heart or a spade. Both of those are going to trigger something. And a salvage. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. Yeah, I'm going to be crazy. I'm doing it. Jack it is. Jack it is. I think so. Hold on, hold on, hold on. I don't have the ability, though, to put that 3 in there. No, no, no. I'm just doing that. It's a waste because it doesn't do me any good. I'm just going to move over 1 and go there. It's empty. I don't have the empty searchy thing. I just realized. Oh, no, 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 no. I do have that. I do have that, but I don't have any salvage. Okay, so that's that then. Then I am using diamond jack. Like that. Which means we do get a damage. But I also get a heart. I could finish that getting a spade, but that gets me a salvage to clear that. I don't want to do that right now. I want to do one of these. Let's do this one. Getting me a knowledge, which is safe now. But I did trigger a heart. Like that. Then upgrades. I don't have any salvage, so I can't. But yeah, you know what? Let's do it. 2 crew kills a damage. And then they score 5 points. So they go to 20. But I score 4 points. So I go to 24 like that. Clearing away. One, 2, 3. They add 2 new cards. Bottom map, which potentially is going to happen. Well, this is now bottom and middle, so we're definitely going to trigger something. And clubs. All right. All right, we're going to be a little crazy, and I may regret this, but I'm doing 10. Hold on, I think I forgot. 1, 2, 3 is that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is that. Then this big one is there. Yeah, that should be one more from last time. But I am going to do a 10, and I'm crazy. Because it's going to be a 10 plus a thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Means I am using 1 knowledge. So we're only going 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 goes there. I get 3 points. And I pick up a salvage or a crew. So either way, I'm going to hurt myself. But I'm going to get more salvage in just a minute. So I'm going to take the salvage anyway. So that gets triggered. And that was the 10. Plus I get a bonus spade. And I will take this 5 right here to get another salvage. Which means spades have been triggered. I'm also, sorry, in the bottom corner. So this triggers. But then for my action, I take a spade 2. Which means that one. Which means I will take a damage. But I also take a hard action, which is going to be that one. Getting a knowledge, because that means after I finish this turn, I will do that. But let me see something. Upgrading. Ace is double treasures. 2 lets me use crew as salvage, which is not important right now. 10 says I can adjust that, and that's going to be important. That costs 1 crew and 1 thing, But that means I have to spend a treasure, and I don't really want to do that. Do I? No, maybe not. All right, so I'm just going to pass for my final thing. I'm not healing, and I'm not upgrading. That is the end of the round. I do now have at least one filled in each of the hearts zones. So that scores 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm up to 32. But the AI is going to score 5, 10, 15. So they go up to 35. And then I score 1, 2, 3 for the remaining 3 pieces. So I am also up to 35 points. Those go away. Sliding those down. Clearing these. One, 2, 3. Come on, no jokers. That's good so far. All right. Then I need more treasure. And I need more something. Hearts. None of that's going to help. Well, it could help with treasure. Let's see what comes out of here. Top areas and damage. Okay. I'm not upset. We are going to take that 5 as a movement. And I will go... Oops, that should be crossed off. That should be crossed off. I will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, taking this heart. Taking knowledge because I don't want crew. That's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I get a heart bonus. What kind of action do I want? Not clubs. Diamonds would be good towards working the treasures. Let's do that. I will take this one, which gets me another knowledge and a diamond. And with that diamond, I will put a king here, which gets me a 3rd treasure. Yes. Yes. And again, no upgrade, no nothing. I'm not in the middle because I'm in that corner. I'm not in the top. I didn't get crew. I didn't do clubs. I didn't take damage. We are good. That's 5 points for me. 35 goes to 40, like that. Clearing again. No, not clearing again. I just did that without taking my turn. Hold on. Still not going to get a damage. But I'm going to do a diamond 9, which means I will put a 9 there, which gets me another treasure like that. Cool. Okay, then that is the turn. Those go away like that. 1, 2, lots of diamonds again. I don't hate it. I do hate that I'm probably going to take damage. This gets shuffled. And we do need to draw 2 more. I'm kind of out of space, but I can kind of squeeze them in. We've got a shipwreck there. And I got space there. Let's do that. Okay, actually we can do that. It still fits. Yes, it still fits. Again, I apologize if the brightness is too bright. The sun is playing tricks on me today, and this is mostly natural lighting today. All right, then we just picked up salvage and spades, which is mostly gonna be okay. Let's see what we can do. I don't like clubs, but I kind of need to start doing clubs. So yeah, we're gonna let them score on clubs because I'm gonna take that 5 as my movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Now both crew and salvage are gonna trigger, so let's take the crew because we don't have any and I might want to upgrade. That was 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did pass through 1 point, up to 41. And I do get a club action, which is going to trigger clubs. I already triggered crew, which is good because clubs is going to trigger crew again. So let's do, but that's going to trigger a spade action. And I don't love it. Yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. All right, we're gonna do that to take another crew, which does trigger spades, unfortunately. So I am gonna do this here to get a salvage and 2 points, because at least then I can score on their score, 2 points. And then I'm gonna do a diamond queen so that I can put a queen there, getting myself 1 more treasure. I still need 1 more to get, whoops, to get that scoring, but that's okay. Then I'm not healing, but I might upgrade. 5, 10, queen. Queen I've already got, although I can do different things. 5 is the one that lets me change suits for 1 knowledge. 10 lets me adjust clubs, which could be important. 9 lets me put wilds anywhere. Put hearts anywhere, which could also be important. Because I gotta focus on that. They're gonna crush me in a minute. Again, I'm forgetting to cross those off. I'm sorry. All right, then. Let's take the 10. It's cheap and it only takes 2 things. So 1 salvage, 1 crew gets me that, plus a point like that, upgrading. They get 15 points, 40, 45, 50, and I get 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. Clearing out. One, 2, 3. I like what I'm seeing. 2 more things. Lower map, so anywhere on the map is going to trigger, so I'm okay. Hold on a minute. I should have 1 less point. They should actually have 5 more points because the middle map triggered that one. Okay. But that's okay, because that means now I can avoid the bottom and top. And the other one is diamonds, which is a little bit annoying because I need another treasure, and that's the best way to do that. But let's see what we got. I want that heart. I definitely want that heart. Means 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ooh, okay. It's gonna get us closer to the end of the game, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 means I do have to use 1 knowledge. And that gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 there. But I'm gonna take the crew because I don't want to get rid of a salvage. I don't want to gain a salvage. 2 points, up to 50. And then a free diamond action, which is unfortunately going to trigger that. But if I put a, let's say, jack there, I get another treasure chest. Plus, I trigger another club action, which is great because I will take that damage, which triggers this 3 here. And then, whoops, that was my 7. Doesn't matter which one because there's 2 of them. And then I'm going to take a heart 7 to cross off this one here, getting a point like that. I am in the middle, so neither of those trigger. I did take a damage. I didn't write it down, but I did take a damage. Yes, so they scored 10 points. Ouch. But I score 3 more off of them. 3, which means next turn is going to be the end of the game. So I need to score as much as I can without scoring anything for them. And potentially, I do get this. That means that's the end of the game. I do get that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do get that. which means my circles have crossed the leagues. That is the end of the game. Which means we do final scoring. But before that, I could have chosen to... hold on a minute. Commander Farragut says, if you decline to take an exploration reward, gained resource, or action bonus action, they score 5 points for my cowardice. But, let me reverse for a minute. If I use my harpoon, I do not take that damage, and I cross out 2 damage in my damage inventory, which means I did not trigger that, which means they have 60 points, and I have 1 more right there. I'm sorry for backing up, but that seems to be the right way to do it. So now we go into final scoring. I could then upgrade. What were the 3 cards I had? 4, 7, 7. 7 takes 3. Does trading 3 points for 1 point doesn't mean anything. Yeah, all of the rest of them take at least 2 resources except for this Rakers, and I can't get there. All right, we're done then. So I've got, half erased, 63 plus 6 treasures plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 2 points minus nothing gives me a total score of 63 and 6 is 9, 71 points. There it's 60. I think we're going to win. The Jokers didn't come out, but they get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let me count that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. 65, 66, 67, 68. This is Farragut's finish. And I finished 71 to 68. We just barely beat Farragut. That is my first win on the AI Farragut Pursuit solo mode. So there is that. I do just want to show you in here that I promised there are Jokers. Wow, that one's almost at the bottom of the deck. And, this one would have come out in another 2 turns. So there were in there. I promise I didn't cheat. They didn't come out in either of my playthroughs, but everything was shuffled. Normally, that's all there is to show you there. I do want to show you the rest of the cards you didn't get to see. There are 2 more challenges you didn't see. That is the Spade challenge that says in a warfare, I have to cross out at least 1 crate on each ship. And Nemo's challenge here, this one says on the map, collect every reward of any one type. So on the map, I have to go through all of the borders that would give me all of the crew, all of the knowledge, or all of the salvage. The other 4 characters, we've got the Cartographer, which gives me a treasure map, says gain treasure for each zone you move into or through, excluding the zone you started your turn in. Professor Aranax says, when moving, cross out any damage you pass through as normal, but instead of taking damage, gain stars instead. Okay. Then here the Navigator says, Spyglass, you may move off one edge of the map to the opposite edge, collect both exploration rewards from the zone border where you exited and the zone border where you re-entered. Cool. And finally, the Science Officer says, Sextant, when moving, gain a bonus action that you pass through, even if you do not end your movement on that space. Then cross out the bonus after gaining it. So those are the different characters you haven't seen in my playthrough, but that is that. Otherwise, you've seen all of the components on screen. Again, this is a prototype, so I can't comment on quality of things, but this is pretty much final quality because it looks a whole lot like the final quality Fliptown copy that I have already. Again, just like with Fliptown, I love the design, the artwork on this board, this sort of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea Captain Nemo style world and theming here is very, very cool. The iconography on everything is very easy to parse, very easy to understand and follow. Again, I just love the way this looks. All of these sort of Farragut's Pursuit, this sort of border of tentacles around the outside looks really cool. Just like with Flip Town, you get, this is a standard deck of cards. I would buy this deck of cards just as a deck of cards. The face cards look really, really cool. The jokers with these sort of tentacles here, everything just looks really, really cool. The backs of these cards, beautiful squid design. I'm just a big fan of everything this artist is doing, both in Flip Town and now here in Flip Voyage. Again, the card box looks like the back of the cards. Great, great stuff. These dry erase markers are similar to dry erase markers I've seen before. I don't know if these are going to be the final ones that are in the game, but I have to say, I love these. They have, I don't know how well this is going to show on camera, but they have a really nice fine point that sort of with any pre-packaged markers that I've seen in games like this really, really works nicely to draw nice lines, but there's still very nice, rich black coloring, if that makes sense, that shows up very well on the board. It's very easy to see what's been written and what is still sort of empty on the board. Otherwise, again, this is just a prototype, but I just want to show you the box. The box is the same as Flip Town if you've got that or if you've seen it. Nice sturdy box, very nice artwork on the top of the box as well. Again, big fan of everything visually and physically with this game. Maybe back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the gameplay itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those playthroughs and I hope you didn't mind my crazy singing voice too much on that sea shanty. I had a bit of fun with that. Anyway, let's get into what I think about this game. If you've seen my channel or if you've watched my videos before, you will know that I'm a big, big fan of Flip Town. I've done a video for the main Flip Town as well as a recent solo campaign expansion. And you can see right here, I've got another preview video coming very soon after this for another big box or a new big box expansion for Flip Town called New Frontiers. So coming into this, I already knew that I sort of enjoyed their style of flip and write games, and I want to say that right up front, I'm really enjoying this one as well. And I'm enjoying quite a bit how different this one feels when compared to Flip Town and how much it sort of stands on its own. Now, at its core, this game is very similar to Flip Town in the way that it plays, in that on each turn, you're turning over 3 cards, and you're choosing to sort of assign those 3 cards to 3 different things in this game. Now, because this isn't sort of Western themed and it isn't poker themed, you're no longer making poker hands. So the one new card, or sort of one big new twist on this game, is that the card you would have originally or had assigned to the poker hand in the original game, you're now going to be using to sort of navigate and move around on a map. So this idea of traveling around on a map is the sort of big new twist in this game. Otherwise, there are still 4 different sections based on the 4 different suits in the poker deck or in the sort of card deck. And each turn, the other 2 cards, one will be determining which of those 4 actions you're taking based on the suit, and then the other one will be assigning a value, sort of determining which specific action you're taking at that location, just like you did in Flip Town as well. So the difference here is now instead of a poker hand, you're doing this sort of navigation because you are in this sort of Nautilus look-alike, traveling around the world, going on these adventures along the way. So let's talk first about that map, because that is a big change and I really do enjoy what that's doing here in the game for a couple of reasons. One, just because this puzzle of which card do I choose to move around the map to make sure that I can get to the things that I want to get to is a fun puzzle, because there are different things scattered around the map. There are areas of the map that will damage you if you move through them. There are areas of the map with stars on them, which is notoriety that you will pick up simply by passing through them. There are also different quadrants of the map that as you travel across the border between quadrants, you will get some kind of bonus resource unlocked as you do so. But then also at specific locations around the map, there are these sort of anchor points. And if you can manage to end your movement on one of these locations, you then get a bonus action related to whatever symbol or whatever suit is printed at that location. So you're trying to do your best to sort of avoid getting damage, passing through as many stars as possible, while also doing your best to land on these bonus actions so that you can get more stuff done before the end of the game. But the other really cool thing, really big thing that this map is doing is it also works as the timer for the game. And I think this is really clever, the way that this works, because around the outside of the board is basically the score track. This is your notoriety track, and when you're picking up these stars on the map, and also when you're picking up stars through the actions, which I'll talk about in just a minute, you will be filling in stars along this track, starting from left going to the right. But at the same time, based on the amount of spaces that you're moving on the map, you're moving in the opposite direction around this track, the leagues track. It's the same track, but starting from the right and going over to the left. And what that means is you are slowly crossing off spaces on this track in one direction and slowly circling your points moving in the other direction. And the game is going to end when these two things meet in the middle somewhere. And depending on how sort of efficient you are with your actions, you may be able to push the points further before the sort of leagues reach further in the opposite direction. And it really makes for a cool sort of efficiency puzzle. It's really pushing you to move as little as possible while getting as much stuff done in the game as possible. And this back and forth between, should I go for a really powerful turn knowing that I'm sacrificing a lot of time to get it done, or should I sort of be more careful, slowly working my way across the map, maybe getting less stuff from the map, but making sure that it means I have more turns to get stuff done on the main actions that I'm going to be taking for this sort of majority of what I'm doing on my turn. So this idea of me sort of having some control over the timer in the game based on the cards that I'm assigning both to the map and to my actions really, really does feel like an interesting idea. And there's also quite a bit more that can happen on the map based on some of the upgrades that you're going to get on your Nautilus. And I'll talk about that in just a minute because I want to talk more about the actions before I talk about the upgrades. But there are some upgrades that allow you to get things on the empty spaces on the map, or will allow you to get stuff when you take damage on the map, making those damage spaces more interesting, and so on, which does add a few more wrinkles to this idea, this puzzle of traversing your way across this map along your adventure. So then on the main board, there are 4 main actions, just like there are in Flip Town. And those 4 main actions are science, warfare, adventure, and liberation. And each of those is sort of going to be focused on getting you something different, but then ultimately scoring points. And each of those is also going to sort of be its own little mini game as to how you interact with each of those actions. And again, each of those actions is suited to a specific card suit, and you're gonna have 2 cards left in your turn after using one to move on the map, one of which determines the suit, one of which determines the value. And the value is simply going to tell you what you're crossing off in that suited area on the board. So first in the science track, you're sort of working your way up through these sort of science-y flasks, filling in from bottom to top, but each sort of space that you're filling in has a specific value associated with it, aside from one that does say any. So there is one option that you can fill in with any value, but otherwise each of the locations or each of the spaces that you're crossing off or filling in this section has a specific value associated with it. The trick though is you need to fill in from the bottom to the top, just like you would if you were filling liquid into a flask. So there are multiple flasks, which does mean you have multiple possibilities about values that can be used at any given time, but some of those higher valued numbers or sort of middling valued numbers, which would sort of be the higher value for the lower range of numbers, can't be used until you've filled in the values that are at the bottom of these flasks. And on the way, you're going to collect points, of course, and you're also going to be collecting knowledge. Knowledge is one of the resources in this game that's going to work just like the gold did in the original game, in that you can spend 1 knowledge to change the value of a card up or down by 1, or you can spend 2 knowledge to change the suit of your suit card to any suit of your choice. So it's going to be useful specifically in this science track, but I'll talk about more about this in the other tracks because it will also be useful there. But it's going to be useful to be able to tweak your values so that you can hit those specific values in the science track. And I say specifically in the science track because remembering, if I have a 5 in any of the other tracks, I can fill in that 5. But in the science track, I can only fill in that 5 if the number below it is already filled in. And I'm picking a number off the top of my head. 5 may actually be at the bottom of one of the flasks. But the point is, I can't just use a number in the science track. I have to make sure that it can fit in there. And using knowledge in this way is going to be particularly important in this science track. Then in the warfare track, you're sort of fighting off against ships out on the water. And you're going to obviously be taking damage from doing so potentially, but also you're going to be getting salvage from the ships that you're basically destroying, collecting materials, and those materials that you're collecting will be used to upgrade your Nautilus. There are a variety of different things you can do to your Nautilus to get sort of special abilities or to make other actions more powerful and so on, and I'll talk about those later, but this is the sort of main location where you're going to be getting that salvage. And the way that this section works is each of the boats have a sort of set number of boxes that you can fill in that are specific values. So you're going to check off the box that matches the value that you're playing. But then each of those boxes is associated with a crate that's either going to hurt you, causing damage, or will get you one of these salvage. But after you fill in a certain number of those, it means all of the boxes associated with that particular ship, you will score points for having sort of destroyed that ship. And I should sort of back up for just a second. The same is true in the science track. As you fill in a flask, you get points for filling in a complete flask. Here, you get points for destroying a complete boat. But again, you will be needing to take damage for doing so. And I mentioned damage on the map, and I'm mentioning damage again right now in this warfare section. I should pause to explain what damage is. Damage is basically going to be negative points, 1 per damage at the end of the game. There will be ways throughout the game that you will be able to mitigate that or sort of remove some of that damage, fixing some of that damage. But in this case, when you're fighting off against these ships, it's very likely you're going to be taking damage. I should also point out there are some bonus actions in these main actions. I'll come back and talk about those later after I've talked about the other actions. So far we've got science, which gains me knowledge and points, warfare, which gains me salvage and points, and potentially damage. The next track is adventure. And adventuring is kind of like the mines in the original Flip Town, except that in the mine you were sort of just snaking down from things that you'd filled in. In this case, you have to pay attention to the values because the spaces in the adventure area have no values printed in them. You're actually going to write the value of the card that you're playing into the square that you've chosen. And this is basically you're diving down into the water searching for treasure, and in this case, treasure is the resource you will be gaining here, in addition to points and potentially damage, because you will sort of run into dangerous stuff along the way. And these treasures are going to be wild resources that can be used as knowledge, can be used as salvage, can be used as crew. But the way that this works is because it's got this idea that you're diving down into the water searching for this stuff, you need to fill in from the top row, working your way down row to row. Except that it's not that simple. You're not just filling in from top to bottom, you're filling in from top to bottom with value as well. So higher values must be placed at the top, and the values must then decrease as you're going down in value, but also down into the water. And in addition to that, you can't just go down as you did in the mines in Flip Town, because you need to have 2 spaces filled in before you can fill in the sort of space below them that fits between those 2 spaces, if that makes sense. So these 2 spaces will allow me to fill in this 3rd space down here, but these 2 spaces up here must have a higher value than the space below it. So as I'm going down, I need to make sure that I'm sort of filling in these V's in order to place lower in the ocean, but also lower in value as I go down lower in the ocean. And in this case, if I fill in any complete row, I will also then score points. The 4th and final area is the liberation area or liberation action. And here you see sort of the settlement along the coast, and you're sort of pulling up and freeing people from that settlement. And the way that this works is you've sort of got these zigzag formation of 2 buildings, 2 buildings, 2 buildings, 2 buildings like that. And each of the buildings has a value associated with it, one of which is in any value, just like in the science track. And you're going to cross off whatever location is connected to the value that you've chosen to play there. Some of those locations will be giving you crew, and others will be damaging you, just like you've seen in the warfare track and the adventure track now. But the crew is what we're picking up here. We're liberating new people to join us as crew. And those crew members are going to be used in 2 different ways. One, they can be combined with the salvage that I mentioned before in order to build these upgrades into your ship. But the crew is also going to be the way that you get rid of the damage that's been done to your ship. You're going to be able to spend 2 crew at the end of a round in order to remove 1 damage, or to use crew and salvage to upgrade your ship in some way. So you are balancing this dichotomy or this decision between, do I fix my ship or do I make my ship stronger at the end of every round? But anyway, in this liberation area is the main location where I'm going to be picking up crew. We might get some on those sort of border bonuses on the map, but for the most part, liberation is where I'm getting crew. And the way that it's going to work is, if you fill in both squares of a building left to right, you're going to check off a sort of point track at the bottom of that area, scoring points for having sort of liberated that entire building. And along the way, there will also be, this way, a little mark in between, which is the bonus action. So let me talk about the bonus action here, and then I'll sort of talk about that in all of the sections, because it's going to work the same way in all of the sections. But if I fill in two sort of connected segments vertically, I'm going to trigger some kind of bonus action shown by the icon in between that will allow me to do something else in another section at the same time, sort of as part of that same action. And anytime I trigger a bonus action, I get to choose the value of that action, which is going to be very powerful. And the way that works in the adventure area is that some of those locations where those treasures are or where the danger is, between them there's a little bonus action. Same thing on the ships. Between some of the blocks on the ships there will be a bonus action. Same thing on the science flasks. Between some of the vertically connected locations in those flasks there will be a bonus action. So I also, while trying to do these different actions, in order to get crew, in order to get treasures, in order to get salvage, in order to get the knowledge, I'm also trying to fill in so that I can trigger these bonus actions and get stronger any value I choose actions in another section. And I can sort of jump around back and forth if I can trigger a bonus action that triggers over here, which triggers another bonus action, which triggers over here. And you can build up these nice combos as you are playing. So it's very interesting balance, just like it was in Flip Town. Which suit am I using? Which value am I using to get the resources that I need to get to work towards scoring those point scores or those notoriety values in each of those different locations, to work on as best as possible, triggering those bonus actions to get more stuff done on my turn, and then sort of building this engine of scoring this to score that to score this, to sort of build this sort of combo engine as you're going through in order to make sure you're getting as much stuff done in as little time as possible, because remembering then that the map is also rushing this timer that you're trying to score points before you sort of trigger the end of the game. And all of this working together really makes for a very intricate sort of interworking of the different actions you can take, the way that they feed into each other. Some of them are causing damage, and then remembering at the end of each round I have the choice to either use crew to repair my ship or use crew and salvage to upgrade my ship. And upgrading my ship is going to do a variety of different things, because each of the upgrades is associated with a value of card. So that means 1 through King, there are 13 different upgrades that are possible for you to get in any given game. But you can only upgrade your ship based on the cards that you have drawn that round. So you sort of got up to 3 options freely for you to upgrade based on, if you have, of course, enough resources, salvage, and crew to spend for that particular upgrade. Remembering, though, that you can always use knowledge to adjust that value to give you access to other sort of upgrades that your cards may not have already done for free. But these upgrades are going to do a variety of things. I mentioned on the map already there are upgrades that will allow you to get stuff, I believe, salvage and crew when you move through a damaged location. There's an upgrade that allows you to get a treasure every time you land on an empty space or end your movement on an empty space on the map, which means you can take sort of shorter trips and still get something out of it without having to aim to get those special spots on the map. There are upgrades that sort of make the other 4 actions more powerful or more useful in some way. The science one allows you to place numbers anyway. You don't have to, anywhere. You don't have to fill from the bottom. The warfare action allows you to get an extra salvage every time you get a salvage. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the other 2, but there is one that upgrades the treasure and there's one that upgrades the liberation as well, making those more powerful. There are also upgrades that sort of cheapen things. I told you that the treasure chests are a wild resource. Well, you can get an upgrade that makes the treasure chest 2 wild resources. I told you that it takes 2 crew in order to fix your ship. There's an upgrade that makes it take 1 crew to upgrade your ship. I told you that it takes 2 knowledge to change the suit of your card. There's an upgrade that changes that to 1 knowledge to upgrade your card. There are a couple of different upgrades that allow you to use resources for different things, knowledge as crew or crew as salvage and so on. I don't remember all of the different combinations. There's an upgrade that makes all of the costs of the upgrades cost one less salvage. So there's a variety of different things you can do, but remembering that every time you get upgrade, you're spending resources, but also you're choosing not to repair your ship. And remembering those damage are all -1 points at the end of the game. So it is a nice sort of juggling act about which are you prioritizing. Do I want to spend all of these resources? Because at the end of the game, you're also scoring points based on sort of how many remaining resources you've got. Now, you don't score a lot of points. I believe it's 1 point for every 3 resources. So it's not like it's a lot, but if you do have a bunch left over at the end, you will be scoring points. Whereas if you spend them to get upgrades, each upgrade gives you 1 star or 1 notoriety. So you are getting a point, but it may be less than you would be if you're spending a bunch of resources to get it done and then never use those upgrades. So you do have to pay attention to how you're doing things and what you're doing, thinking about all of these different interlocking mechanisms, trying to score as many points as possible. And if that was all the game was, I'd be happy with it. Except then, Nemo himself is sort of challenging you each time to accomplish specific things. So for every game, you will be drawing 3 Nemo's challenge cards. And in the multiplayer game, you're sort of rushing to get to them first because whoever does them first gets 5 points and anybody else gets 2 points. Whereas in the solo mode, you're sort of playing against a timer that's randomly in there. There are 2 jokers in the deck. And when a joker comes out, one of those cards will flip from the 5 points to the 2 points. But in any case, these 3 Nemo's challenge cards are going to be pushing you to get specific things done. Getting all the way to the bottom of the ocean in the adventure, marking at least 1 block or hitting at least 1 time on each of the ships in the warfare area. Filling in at least 1 slot in each of the science tracks. Getting all kinds of different combinations of sort of set collection kind of thing or accomplishing specific things throughout gameplay. And if you do, you get extra points. And what this means is you're only playing with 3 of them, and there are quite a few of them in this box. I don't have the number off the top of my head, I'm sorry. But the point is, every time I'm playing, you're playing with a different set of 3 cards, which means you may be seeing 3 new goals, but also, even if you see the same goals, they will likely be paired with different challenges than they were in previous games. So every time I'm playing, I'm being pushed to try the game in different ways. It's not going to become samey because I can't do the exact same thing every time I play the game. Not only because the cards that are coming out come out in a different random order, but also because I should be aiming to score these 3 challenges as efficiently as possible, because it could be up to 15 points by the end of the game, which is a huge number realistically when you're only scoring, 60, 70, 80 points max in a game. These are definitely worth your time, and they really do push you to try different things and keep the game feeling fresh and adding to the variability of how this game plays out, and I really do appreciate that those are in there. So, talking more specifically about the solo mode. There are 2 solo modes in this game. There's a beat your own score solo mode, and there is an AI, I believe it's called Farragut's Revenge, that is in there. I've played through both of them. I hope that you watch my playthrough. There are both in there. The beat your own score solo mode, I'm generally not the biggest fan of beat your own score solo modes just because I don't know what the win condition is, and I do want some kind of feeling that I've accomplished something when I've played the game. That said, the game is still very, very fun that way, and I can sort of set an arbitrary value. There is a sort of semi-ranking in the game, which I'll talk about more in just a second, but I can sort of aim for a specific value that I need to score higher than to be happy with myself or to consider it a win. So that's something I can always do for myself to make that beat your own score more interesting for me. So I don't not like to beat your own score. But more than that, in original Flip Town, they sort of gave you a rank or a title, some kind of Wild West flavored title of who you were as a person based on not just your score, but how much wanted you had, and I can't remember what the other category was, but it gave you this cool sort of thematic title. They've taken that a step further in this game, and I really, really enjoy what they've done because now there's like a sea shanty, and I sang it poorly for you, and I hope that you had fun with that. But The point is, based on the number of points you've got, the amount of treasure you have left, and how much damage has been done to your ship, not only are you getting a score that's sort of ranking based on how you did previously, hence the beat your own score, but now you're also getting a sort of song that tells of your exploits in the game, and that really makes it a whole lot of fun because thematically it brings you back to the story. And I want to point out here while we're talking about that, this game really does ooze theme quite a bit. In such a sort of abstracted flip a card and write a number kind of game, the theme really shines here because the sort of your exploits of you traveling around the map, getting things done on the map, the fact that the map is also the timer sort of means that your journey has a sort of set length and you're trying to do as much along the way as possible. Then even the 4 actions are very thematic that I would be sort of doing scientific research to gain knowledge. I would be attacking other ships to gain salvaged pieces to do things to my ship. I would be diving underwater to search for treasure. I would be liberating people in order to bring them into my crew. So all of these actions really make sense based on what they are doing, the fact that you're actually building out your ship or using your crew to fix your ship, meaning that those people are then going to be tired so they won't be available to do something else in the future. There's a whole lot of theme that does come out in this game, and I really do appreciate that. So let's talk about the other solo mode, which is this sort of AI mode. Anyway, it's giving you an opponent whose score you're playing against. And the way that this works is very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a solo mode that works like this before. But basically you're turning over 2 cards plus whatever number of cards you started with based on the difficulty you've selected. But every round you're turning over 2 cards that are triggers that will score 5 points each for the opponent. And each of those triggers is something that you will potentially do on your turn that will cause that to happen. But if you don't trigger that card on your turn, you score 1 point. So you're doing your best to sort of maximize your scoring efficiency on your turn while also doing your best not to trigger as many of those triggers as possible so that you can score as many 1 points for as many of those as there are and prevent them from scoring 5 points for the ones that you're triggering. And at the end of the round, any cards that haven't been triggered, means the ones you're scoring 1 point for, will stay there. The ones that they've scored will get discarded, but that means every round you're adding 2 cards, so the number of these triggers is growing and growing and growing, assuming that you're not allowing them to happen, where it gets to the point where eventually you sort of have no choice but to trigger some of them because then everything is sort of covered. But these triggers are going to be things like ending your turn at a specific zone in the map, triggering specific suit cards or suited actions, gaining specific resources, and so on. But if you can allow them to grow and not trigger them, then you're scoring a ton of points every round because you're getting 1 point for each of those cards you didn't trigger. But that does mean at some point there's going to be a big turn when the AI or the opponent is going to trigger quite a few of those, or you are going to trigger quite a few of those because you simply can't avoid it, and they will score 5 points per card. Also, when should a joker come out of the deck while you're turning it, instead of just flipping over those Nemo's challenges, those 5 points are then going to the opponent as well. And then finally, at the end of the game, the opponent is scoring 1 point per space that you didn't fill in a specific track. That track is, or that suit is determined by a card flip at the beginning of the game, but basically one of the 4 action spots will be given to the opponent, and any space you didn't fill in there will be scoring 1 point for the opponent. So you do have to sort of focus. Again, this gives you more focus to try different things in the game because you really have to work on a specific action, filling as many spaces as possible, while doing your best not to trigger any of the triggers if possible, to score your points, to avoid them scoring points, and doing all of that within the confines of that sort of timer of the game, traveling around the map until the end of your journey. And it really makes for an interesting puzzle, and it is absolutely a challenge. I've only played on the lowest difficulty level, and I struggle to win. I believe that I won by 1 point in the playthrough on this video, which worked really well for me, and I'm glad that I was able to show you a win. But this solo mode is very difficult. Now, it is worth mentioning that both the Beat Your Own Score solo thresholds as well as the sort of scoring of the solo mode are still being tinkered with a little bit because this is still a prototype copy of the game. And it does feel a little bit punishing in this sort of solo AI opponent version of the game, but I do really enjoy the additional layer of sort of thought that you need to put into the actions that you're taking while you're playing. And while I may not play it that way all the time simply because it does feel difficult, it is a whole lot of fun, and I think it's a very cleverly designed solo mode for this game. So that's basically my thoughts on this game. I have to say I'm very, very pleased with how the sort of core gameplay mechanisms from the original are sort of preserved here in this game, while also adding in new things that completely change the flair and the feeling and the way that this game plays through. They are absolutely sort of related in the same family of game, definitely from the same designer, definitely from the same sort of publishing concept or design ethos, but very much its own unique game, and still very much a very exciting and fun to play game. So I am absolutely a fan of this, and I look forward to seeing more in this line, because I'm very curious to see how much they can, or he can, I should point at Stephen Aramini, can continue to sort of iterate on this idea of flipping 3 cards and using them in different ways. Big fan of this. Again, this is a preview for a crowdfunding campaign that is just about to start as this video goes up. I will put a link to the campaign down below in the description. That campaign also includes this new expansion for Flip Town called Nude Frontiers. There will be a video for that coming next week as well, so definitely keep an eye out for that. That's basically all I have to say. I hope that this video was helpful for you. As always, if it was, I do ask that you remember to please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.